Hey, what's going on? Thanks for joining us on Razzball Radio. It is Tuesday, March the 6th. I am your host, Nick Capozzi. And again, we do appreciate you joining us. We've got a really good show going on for you today. First, we're going to have Razzball's very own Sky joining us today. And we're going to talk some daily fantasy baseball strategies. Also, later on in the show, we're going to talk to Tehol. That's right, Tehol is going to make an appearance. We're really excited about that. You get to see the most beautiful man in the world. According to Gray, anyway. So we are all going to get to that. Now, here's the good news. If you want to watch both segments of the show right now, hey, you're already doing it. So that's fantastic. The bad news is that, oh no, I'll get to the bad news in a second. It involves Sky and him talking through a potato. I'll get to that. But the good news is, if you just want the fantasy baseball coverage, what we'll do is after every episode, probably in the next couple of days, we're still working out the glitches on that, we will actually rip the audio out of the show that's just baseball talk. So if you don't want your peas touching your steak on your plate, that's okay. I won't judge you. But you will have the opportunity to download and listen to the Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Now, if you're just a football guy, you're probably a little bit more open-minded. But if you're not, you can get the talk we do with Tehol from the Razzball Football Podcast. You see what we're doing here? Okay, good. So without further ado, and I mentioned he was trying to talk to us through a potato. Actually, here's what happened. He's got a face for radio. No, I'm kidding. Sky's a good-looking guy. But we had him on via Skype before we started the show, and his webcam sucks. I don't know what brand it is, but don't even mention it, Sky, when we get you on here. But we're not happy with the quality. I don't know. Maybe we should. You know what? I'm just going to move on. All right. Without further ado. Here he is, all the way from Oregon, or is it Oregon? I don't know. Sky, what's up, buddy?
Hey, what's up, man? How's it going?
I'm fantastic, and I'm really excited to have you on the show. You always gave us great podcasts, and we're very excited about what you can do here on Razzball Radio. Hopefully, we'll work out in the future your video issues. You didn't actually break the camera, did you?
No. I think, actually, if I'm not mistaken, I found this in my great-grandfather's attic. It does come with a VCR load. I don't know. I'm just, it may not quite be working the way I was expecting it to.
Okay.
I think I was below 8-bit Nintendo whenever I was looking at it. So that, there's your quality line. I was Pitfall from Atari. How about that?
All right. So we will work on next time getting Sky in here. Actually via video. So that is the plan going forward. But for today, hey, we're going old school kind of radio here. We're just going to chit-chat. But again, we will get to see the most beautiful man in the fantasy sports world, Tehol, coming up after this with Mr. Sky. So Sky, I want to talk to you, my man, about daily fantasy sports. In case you haven't played before, basically, instead of drafting a team at the beginning of the year or playing in a keeper or dynasty league, what you do is you go in and you play for one day based on player values. So, for example, Clayton Kershaw on a good day might cost you $8,000 out of your salary cap of $50,000, but Edwin Jackson's maybe half the price. So you've got to work within a salary cap structure to put together the best possible fantasy team for that day. That makes sense to you, Sky? Have I laid out the groundwork correctly?
Definitely, yeah, you have. You're saddled with a $50K salary, and you're basically trying to roster an entire team that includes 2 starting pitchers, not just one. So it's really tantamount. You know how to find value, and also how to build your roster based on what game you're playing for the day. So there's different strategies based on whatever game you're playing, whether it be a 50-50 or if you're in the guaranteed prize pools, the big cash money ones. You've got different approaches.
Yeah, I have to look for value on a daily basis when I'm shopping because I work for Gray. So he pays me in peanuts and sarcasm.
You do note that I did bring out my great-grandpappy's video recorder. I think we both understand what working under Gray's pay scale is.
By the way, is it Oregon or Oregon?
It's Oregon, but pretty much anyone not near Oregon can call it whatever the hell they want. Just went to our conference in Orlando, and everyone called it the University of Oregon, and I just gave up hitting them whenever they said it. I was just like, you're not even trying.
At least they're not calling it the University of Oregano.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it would have been another green substance that we would have gone by.
Oh, no comment.
No comment.
Okay, so Sky, let's break this down a little bit. So how would, and we'll get into a couple player values a little bit later on, but this is just kind of a primer in case you haven't played before. How are
Yeah.
some of the strategies a little bit different? Like, for example, I know strikeouts have a lot more value in the daily game.
Yeah.
Am I right on that? Because apparently, if you look at where I am in the RCL league right now, you would debate whether I know anything about fantasy baseball. But Ks tend to have more value. Is that correct?
That is extremely correct for the pitchers. It's 2 points per K, and each third of an inning is 0.75 points. So if you strike out the side, you're garnering yourself, what is that, a little about 8.25 points if I'm doing it correctly. That's almost the value of what you can almost expect from a hitter in a given day. If they're doing well, is around that price total. So you got to stack up on Ks, and it doesn't necessarily automatically mean you got to stack up on expensive pitchers. You got to hit the right matchups. So, for example, a team like the St. Louis Cardinals, even when they're in an offensive funk, they don't strike out that much. So, at the end of the game, maybe they'll only score 2 or 3 runs, and your pitcher goes 6 innings. But if they only strike out 3 or 4, walk 2, give up 5 or 6 hits, you're not getting anything from that in terms of DraftKings drafting value.
So basically, if you really want to have it, well, I don't want to say if you want a shot, but correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm looking at it from a one-day type of value, and your hitters might give you, in a given day, what a pitcher might get by striking out the side, probably value-wise, you're really looking to hit on some pitchers that not everyone else has.
You can be. You're thinking more of the guaranteed prize pool.
Okay.
The guaranteed prize pool is, you're getting dumped in with a bunch of other people. It's all about percentages and playing the contrarian when you get into that size of a pool. Those can be anywhere from 500 to 5,000 people playing in the same pool. So yeah, it's great that Adam Wainwright's going tomorrow for 12K, and you might want to match everyone else doing it, but chances are the ownership of him tomorrow is going to be over 40%. That means you're only beating 60% of the pool. That's not a great thing when you're talking about 5,000 people.
Right.
So you have to have those contrarian plays in there where you're looking at the background stats and going, given the team at hand, this guy has a chance to strike out 6 or 7, whereas maybe he would only get 3 or 4 on a given night. Maybe have a solid ERA and not too many hits and walks.
Okay, now I actually went on and I used the DFS bot. I'll get to that in just a second. But basically what it is, Rudy went into his basement. This is what he did all summer, was he came up with another great tool available at razzball.com where you can actually go in and see what players are listed at on DraftKings.com, for example, versus what his numbers are suggesting. So one of the guys he had tonight was Edwin Jackson of the Chicago Cubs, going up against the Chicago White Sox. Now, again, Edwin Jackson, great strikeout pitcher. And so far, as we're actually taping this, of course, we're not live streaming since we're having another glitch with that. Damn you, live stream. By the way, I got some big news coming up. Sky, remind me about it. Really big news. So Edwin Jackson, through 6 innings, has given up 1 earned run and 7 strikeouts and only 5 hits. So, according to DraftKings today, Edwin Jackson would have cost you, sorry, I don't have the number in front of me, but if you run it through the DFS bot, which is at razzball.com, click the Tools tab, and right there, just look up DFS bot. So he was basically a $1,500 value for Rudy today. So that means, and again, I don't have the numbers in front of me, I apologize, but if Edwin Jackson was $4,000 on DraftKings, for example, Rudy had him as a $6,500 value. Am I still right?
Yeah, you're on that. And that tool is definitely great in terms of especially pointing out the monetary discrepancies. He'll post what he believes the salary will be for the day and then what the return value will be. And some of the guys, especially the expensive pitchers, they're always going to give a negative value. It doesn't necessarily mean they're a bad play. In terms of the tool, it's just reflecting how much you're paying versus what you can reasonably expect to get in return. And so that's a great tool in pointing out guys like Edwin, who may be middle tier in terms of pricing on DraftKings, that could turn in a great night like he's doing right now.
Now, here's another advantage of that tool, for example, especially if you're playing at DraftKings.com, because DraftKings is the only site out there that'll let you swap out guys at the last minute. So Eric Chavez was a great value against Milwaukee today. He was $3,760 on $2,600 on DraftKings, but Rudy projected him through the DFS bot to be a $3,760 play. That's a $1,204 profit, but he didn't play.
Yeah, you've got to. I mean, obviously, this tool is strictly there for people who are actually paying attention. Just like anything in life, you can have all the great tools, in terms of stocks and anything, but you still have to be paying attention. Company goes bankrupt, you probably shouldn't be buying their stock. Guy's not starting, you probably shouldn't be throwing him in your lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, an advantage of playing with a great product like DraftKings is that you can actually go and swap out your guys at the last minute.
Definitely.
Okay, so how would you look at a day like tomorrow? So let's say Wednesday, May the 7th. How would you, and I'm just giving it as a random day, even though it is tomorrow, how would you construct your roster based on some of the things you're seeing tomorrow?
Yeah, well, first off, this kind of goes into philosophy, and this is just kind of my personal one.
I love how you brought up philosophy. You must be from Oregon.
I'm, that's why you can't see me right now. I've got the big shaggy beard. It's just.
You're a thinker.
Oh, totally a thinker, an overthinker. I just stay in my house while it rains all day and things. But when it comes to these kind of things, and I was actually looking at the slate for tomorrow. I really like big slates if I'm going to be playing because that's more variables. There's more variance, which means less of the same guys are going to get picked, which means I can build a more unique lineup for the day. Tomorrow is a split schedule because there's a morning tilt, a midday tilt, and an evening tilt. I've only got the largest slate of games I have to play tomorrow is going to be 9. And that's fairly small. I'm probably going to play a 50-50. Tomorrow.
Can you explain what a 50-50 is?
Yeah, 50-50 is 50% of the people who play in said pool earn back their cash, and I want to say they double it, but they don't really, not in the 50-50s. If you throw in $1, you'll get $1.80 back if you're the top 50 percentile of the group you're playing in. So, on Sunday, I played in a 50-50. I was comfortable with my lineup, so I threw down in a $20 one, and I ended up shooting the moon. I didn't mean to. I ended up getting second in that league.
Wow.
And, and they throw $16 back at me when it was all said and done. And I threw similar lineups in some moonshots, which are guaranteed prize pools, and got some money back there too. But the shorter the slate, the less likely I'm going to be risking myself in the guaranteed prize pools just because there's not enough variance. There's not enough ability to go, I think I found a value here. I don't think too many people are going to abuse it.
Right.
Well, you get those big pools, more people are going to see it because there's less players available.
Okay, fair enough. So the cool thing I like about daily fantasy is that, if you're out of it, and in a couple of leagues this year, it already feels like I am, you can just still get in and actually watch a day of baseball. So if you can dedicate the day to sitting down watching baseball, you can have a little bit more interest in games that you might not normally pay attention to. Okay, sure. Sky, so listen, here's what I want to chat to you about real quick.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is, starting next week, we're going to play a 50-50 game with the Razzball Radio crew.
Okay.
So Monday to Friday, we are all going to get in. Now, here's the deal. Because I'm in the state of Arizona, which is one of the few states where you actually can't play daily fantasy, although most of them that you can, just go into DraftKings.com. It'll give you the list of the states that you can't play in. I will not actually have a team, so you will be officially Razzball Radio. So you will be making the picks because you're in Oregon again.
Sweet.
So that's fantastic. But we will be playing a daily game, so we're going to chat about it a lot. I mean, look, we're here 5 days a week, so during baseball season, there's definitely some time that we'll focus on this. And this is not going to become a daily fantasy-centric show. But with that said, we are definitely going to chat about it quite a bit. Also, Sky, because I would harbor to say you might be the second smartest guy in the Razzball team photo, if you will. So we're going to have you on to chit-chat about lots of stuff. We'll definitely lean on you a little bit for some daily fantasy. But every time you've come on in the past, especially last year, you graced us with your presence multiple times on the podcast. You know your stuff, buddy. So
Yeah.
we're gonna lean on you, Sky. We're gonna lean on you.
I appreciate that, but when you see me, you're going to realize there's not much to lean on. You're going to need to give some support weight yourself there.
You drinking any good craft beers tonight in Oregon?
Actually, I am. I actually just finished an Nkasi, and when this is done, I'm going to go grab myself another.
Sorry, you had a beer before you came on my show.
Well, yeah. Of
What's the
course.
matter for you?
You know, I was all nervous. I thought I was going to be, on actual video, and so I'm just like, I've got to drink. I've got to get myself loose and and ready for the camera, and then lo and behold, pixelated death, and I'm just not there. So
It was pixelated, and also you sounded like.
well, to be fair, you've been doing a lot of processing on your end. I still sound like that, but you've somehow found a way to edit it.
Really? I don't know. I sound good to me.
Well, I was talking about me.
Oh. No, you sound good, Sky. Come on. We got a pretty up, sending you to maybe get a mani-pedi somewhere up in Oregon. I'm sure you guys do that up in Oregon.
I'll be heading to Sports Clips again. That was probably the best haircut / massage / I think if I paid a little bit more, there might have been something extra later on.
Oh my gosh.
I've ever had.
Don't say that. I love Sports Clips.
Oh, it was great. And my wife was there, so it was awkward.
Was it Sports Clips with like a Z on the end? Or two Z? Sports Clips?
I want to say so. I can't remember. I just remember being touched and fondled way more for a haircut than I've ever been in my entire life. It was unorthodox, and I enjoyed it.
All right, listen, Sky, I really appreciate you joining us today. What we're going to do now is, worst case, if I have to edit this after, so be it. But I'm going to try and transition right now to my man Tehol. So, Sky, we will chat with you next week, buddy. And
right.
Thanks for joining us today on Razzball Radio.
Sounds good. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too, pal. Okay, so tomorrow, actually here on Razzball Radio, what we're going to do is live in studio. We are actually going to have Jess Root of Revenge of the Birds, which is, of course, a great blog here in the Arizona area, and he's going to join us in studio. We're going to be talking about a little bit of NFL draft coverage, but in the meantime, we are working on getting the most beautiful man in the game. His name, of course, is Tehol, and really, it has happened before that Mr. Gray said Tehol is the most beautiful guy I've ever seen in person. So here we are. Without further ado, let's get my man Tehol. What's up, handsome?
Doing, buddy?
How are you?
I'm good. I couldn't get the. I just realized our home office here didn't have any audio set up, so I had to use this headset today. But we're all good, and liking this camera setup you got me with here, and everything's looking good. I'm feeling the new studio. This is amazing.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thanks, pal. And I got to say, you are a pretty handsome guy. You got kind of Matthew McConaughey meets, I don't know, one of those boy actors if they had a love child. I don't know. You're a handsome guy.
You're pretty handsome, too, Nick.
Yeah, for an old guy. I was handsome back in the day. Now I got to, grow in a beard to look rustic.
What are you, 33?
Yeah, I wish I was. 37. But thanks,
wow.
Tehol. Thanks, Tehol. Mm-hmm. Hey, so listen, buddy. Guess what's happening tomorrow? Or Thursday, excuse me.
Oh, boy. I've been waiting. This is like my Christmas Eve. This is the time of the year I get more excited than anything. It's just before they changed the draft to the format it is now where it starts Thursday, before I would just block off Friday, Saturday, like nobody talked to me, like nobody, like chicks, nobody, my mom, don't call me, nobody's calling me, like I'm dialed in. Now it's split up, so it's more of an event, which I've grown to accept. So the first round's Thursday. I've been doing, I've been following this stuff since I followed the prospects and stuff like that since, just before the year even began. So it's finally here. They extended it a couple extra weeks. I finally made it, and I'm excited about it. It's the best draft in a long time. I'm pumped.
Well, I'm glad that you got to, or you were able to take away a couple minutes from your underwear modeling to do a little draft prep to help us out today.
Anytime.
So listen, man, I'm just going to pelt you with some questions about what's going to be happening again, for the draft. Again, tomorrow on Wednesday, or today, depending on when you're watching this video, we're going to have Jess Root from Revenge of the Birds live in studio. First time we're going to have two guys at the desk.
Ooh.
Yeah, he's going to sit to the far side.
Revenge of the Birds?
Yeah, it's a blog based out of Phoenix. He covers the Cardinals, but he covers the entire NFL. So he's going to come in. It's great. I'm working with some local guys here in Phoenix that are actually going to come in and be in studio. They're not all.
Should I be following him on Twitter?
Yes, you should. It's at Senior Jess Root. Senior Jessroot. But we can talk about that tomorrow. Of course, you are Tehol Bedick 47 at Twitter, and I am, of course, at Nick Capozzi. Okay, beautiful. So without further ado, let's start talking about some of these picks that could potentially happen on Thursday night. You and I talked about this briefly earlier. You think the Rams should go and grab Johnny Manziel? You like him that much, or or is it more a concern about Bradford?
Well, it's always been about Bradford for me. I've always been like, when they had the number 2 pick a few years back, and they had the opportunity then to trade Bradford. At that time, he still had value. There's still teams that still, liked him enough where I believe they could have gotten a first and probably maybe a third or something else down the line. And not as much, obviously, as they got in the Griffin package, but then you have RG3. I just don't see Bradford as the kind of guy that's going to lead them to a title. And for me, it's like I'm ready, for St. Louis to kind of put themselves out there and make a move and, bring in a guy who's just a born winner and is exciting and give the fan base something to get excited about. And I think he's more of a, gives them a better shot at a Super Bowl than Brad. I'm just not a Bradford fan whatsoever. Then trade him now, get another pick or so. Not going to be a first, but still fill some holes that way.
Okay, so let's move into talking about some of the fantasy potential we could see from the quarterbacks coming out in this year's draft. I mean, usually with quarterbacks, to have fantasy value, usually it's an issue if you got to wait a couple of years. But I think if there is one player who, if he is successful, and I don't know how to gauge this guy, I don't know if he's going to be, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL or one of the best quarterbacks in the Canadian Football League. But Johnny Manziel, just because of his playmaking ability and ability to move, could be a player that could have a lot of impact at the QB position going into next season, wherever he winds up.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, he should be starting from day one. The rest of the rookies, I don't really see it. I could see, a lot of people at Bortles going to the Vikings at 8, which is a decent fit, but they probably won't even start him from the jump since they just gave Castle a little bit of money and probably work him on. So he may not even get to play. None of the rest of these guys might not play at all. Even Bridgewater. Somebody goes to Cleveland. They got Hoyer there. I'm sure he'll get hurt, but whatever. But
yeah, as of right now, I think the only quarterback who has any kind of upside to actually start for your fantasy team next year would be Johnny Manziel. But from a deeper, let's say, keeper league or dynasty perspective, any of those other quarterbacks that you might be taking a peek at? Last year I was big on E.J. Manuel, and I still am. I think he could be a really interesting player. I got him in a couple of dynasty leagues. Any of those other guys that you think could have a long-term positive impact for fantasy?
Are you going to buy stock in E.J. Manuel on Fantex? Did you know that they were selling shares in him?
No, I didn't realize that, actually.
Well, you might want to get on that. But anyway, I am, I'm not real high on a lot of these quarterbacks. I don't like Mettenberger from the jump. He's finally dropping down, because of a diluted urine sample, which I can tell you from experience is almost impossible to dilute. I spent one day in 9th grade got caught accused of smoking weed. I had to go take this test. I've been drinking more gallons and gallons and gallons of water, and I didn't dilute the sample. So this guy's obviously smoking a lot of weed.
Tehol, I think you meant last week because you are in Washington, right? Because this is a family show. Well, no, it's not. You better not be letting your kids watch.
No, but I don't like him. I'm not a McCarron guy. I'm not. The only guy that kind of intrigues me, who was a former. They were mocking him number 1 overall a year or two ago, is Logan Thomas. He might be a 4th, 5th rounder. He's got some potential in a place like Arizona or something, possibly they like those big quarterbacks, and he's a freak athlete. He's kind of a guy. That's a deep sleep. I mean, dynasty rankings now. I mean, Bridgewater possibly. I mean, I'm just not really a big fan of any of these guys other than Manziel, really.
Okay, it's a very deep wide receiver draft this year, but we'll get to those guys in a second. First, let's talk about running backs. And the reason I want to focus on that is obviously they're the guys that can have the quickest impact, but because of how the NFL drafts these days, these are guys that, don't go in the first round anymore. So a couple of guys that could go, let's say, early in the second round potentially. Obviously, we have Carlos Hyde from Ohio State, Jeremy Hill from LSU. But you've got a guy that you wanted to talk about. I know, again, you're out in Washington, so you've probably got to see him quite a bit. Bishop Sankey from the Huskies just destroyed it at the Combine. I mean, this guy actually on the three-cone drill, which is, obviously a measure you want to look at for running backs. You want to see how they can get in and out of their motions. Talk to me about Mr. Sankey.
Yeah, well, not only did he destroy it at the Combine, but I mean, he put up like 1870 last year, 20 touchdowns in the Pac-12. I mean, I wasn't even sold. I had people trying to sell me on him for the last couple of years. I'm like, he's not that real. He's not that good, whatever. But I mean, he blew my mind this season. He's not just getting outside. I mean, he's running between the tackles. He's getting tough yards. He's getting inside touchdowns. I mean, he's carrying it 40 times a game if needed. I mean, he just, like you said, destroyed the Combine. 26 reps on the bench, which I believe was up there in the lead or top 3, or it's got to be up there somewhere. High 40. And they were kind of worried about him not, really having strength. I mean, it might, and as well as the 40 speed, but he killed everything. I mean, he killed everything. He's bounced up to probably top 3 running back, possibly the first running back taken. I think a good fit is probably like Tennessee with, all they're left with is Sean Green. He could go there immediately and be splitting time, possibly 60% of the carries right out the gate.
He's 5'10", 210, so we'll have to see, if he can hold up to pounding of actually running between the tackles in the NFL. But he's fairly well built, so he's an interesting guy. And I'll be honest, you know a lot more about him than I do, so it'll be interesting to see where he goes. Okay, let's actually let me ask you a quick question first. I'll assume you'll say Sankey if there's one impact rookie running back who people maybe aren't aware of yet. Or okay, let me rephrase the question. You got to pick right now. Which rookie running back is going to have the biggest impact going into 2014?
It's going to be whoever goes
to the right situation,
to the best situation, like Tennessee, for example. But a lot of these teams don't even have an opening as of now. So I mean, it's going to take probably an injury. But I like Trey Mason from Auburn a lot if he gets in the right spot. I mean, Carlos Hyde is probably going to be in the position to where he's going to be getting carries right out the gate. So, a lot of people like Hyde, OSU, and he'll probably be one of the top running backs picked, and therefore probably in one of the better situations to benefit from the carries. Yeah, the Ohio State University, correct.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about some of the pass catchers. I'll lump in tight ends as well. Listen, I guess we need to talk about Sammy Watkins. I was going to say we don't really need to talk about Sammy Watkins because he could go top 3, even potentially number 2 overall. Obviously, he would be probably the hands-on favorite, again, depending on situation, but to have an impact early. Just real quick, let me ask you instead, who's going to take Sammy Watkins? How high does he go on Thursday?
I think he fits in perfectly at number 3 to Jacksonville. I don't think the Rams, though, they say they're not taking a receiver since they've invested so much in the past on the receivers, but a lot of second rounders, and I'm not seeing any benefit.
But with Tavon Austin there, they can't. And listen, Sammy Watkins is not a small guy, but he's not a big guy like, let's say, Mike Evans. I could see if the Rams potentially trade down a couple spots, maybe grabbing Mike Evans, who I think would be a more complimentary receiver to Tavon. So I don't think that's a fit either. But let's say he does go to Jacksonville. Who's going to throw the ball to him? Cecil Shorts?
Your boy, Chad Henne.
Chad Henne.
I've never liked Chad Henne at all, but it seems like they're comfortable with him in there at least for the short term. But they'll probably take one of these bum quarterbacks in the 2nd or 3rd round and try to grade. It won't work out. We all know it won't work out. They'll be drafting the quarterback in the 1st round probably. I mean, as soon as next year possibly. So it's like, I mean, they're gonna somehow Chad Henne somehow has a starting job in the NFL yet again, and it's gross, but that's the way it is.
Hey, listen, he didn't do too bad, but of course he just kept chucking it to Cecil Shorts. I will say this though, of those quarterbacks that could go in the second round, I don't know that I really like anyone. But if Derek Carr did slip, I think Derek Carr is an interesting prospect. So
he is. I kind of forgot about him momentarily. He's definitely intriguing, and he could get some PT right out the gate too. So we'll see.
I mean, I'd rather have him than Teddy Bridgewater right now. And,
and
that's just because Bridgewater, didn't have a good pro day, and now everyone's kind of knocking him because there's been so much time to knock guys coming up to the NFL draft. But Carr, I think, is interesting. So. Okay, back to the wide receivers. How high does Odell Beckham go? A lot of buzz about maybe the Eagles moving up to try and go get him, although I think they need help on defense first. Who do you think is going to take Odell Beckham?
Yeah, if I'm the Eagles, I'm probably leaning more towards a corner or some other kind of impact defensive player, like you said. But, there's a lot of chatter about a bunch of teams trying to trade up for him because he looks like he's going to be the third receiver taken unless somebody surprises and swoops up on Cooks or – even Lee, but it doesn't look like Marquise Lee is going to go that high. So Beckham's looking, it's looking top 10 is a major possibility. He's
really that high.
It could be like where I'm talking like right around 10 is where I've seen him going. And so these mock drafts, nobody really knows, but he definitely doesn't drop. Pittsburgh at 15, I think would take him for sure. Somebody's probably going to trade up. St. Louis. If they don't take Manziel at 2, which they're probably not going to, and take an O-lineman, or for example, and then they could go receiver at the 13th spot, which is a little more. But I think St. Louis maybe trades down from that 13th pick, and somebody bumps up to around the 13-14 range, take Beckham there. I think he's really going that high.
And I think Beckham's a guy you definitely want to watch because he could, of all the wide receivers coming out this year, have the most immediate impact. And I think it's because of how he's built. So whatever situation he goes to, I'd love to obviously see him go to Philadelphia because I'd love to see what they could do with him in that offense. But I think even if Watkins goes, in the top 3 or 4, again, if he goes to Jacksonville, he's got Henne throwing to him, or if Beckham goes to, Philadelphia, has Foles throwing to him. But I think they're all pro ready. I know you don't like Nick Foles. They're all pro ready, but I think Beckham has the. If there's a guy who's going to catch 70 balls for 1,000 yards and get you 8 touchdowns this year as a rookie, if I had to pick someone right now, I'd probably pick Beckham.
It's a good call.
I love talking football.
Yeah, I'm pumped, man. I'm ready for the draft. Unfortunately, there's that big gap in between there, but we got baseball. We got my floundering fantasy baseball teams.
Let's not talk about our RCL teams.
Let's not talk about that.
Okay, a couple more guys I want to touch on real quick. Marquise Lee from USC. You're high on him. Tell me about him.
Marquise Lee, before this last season, people were mocking him 1 or 2 overall in the draft. Like, this guy was that big of a monster. Like, he seemed like he was a little bit. I'm surprised that he's barely 6 foot, if that.
Yeah,
barely.
It
seemed like
he's not
seemed
that
like
big.
he was. He played like he was like 6'3", one of the best college receivers I've ever seen playing in a pro style offense. This last year, they have Max Whittick, and then the other guy, and they're both just terrible. Worst quarterback play I've ever seen at USC in my many years, and there's just
what do you mean many years? How old are you, Tehol?
And he was
how old? You look like you're 23. Do you even shave yet?
And he was banged.
Well, you're an
up
underwear
all
model.
year.
I suppose you have to shave.
Yeah, showing major heart and just battling through injuries. Yet this guy he's getting downgraded basically. Like, maybe he should have just sat out the season, and this guy might be going drafted higher. Like, he's got number 1 ability in my mind, and one of the few guys. If he goes to Baltimore or something and plays and has Torrey Smith opposite of him, I think, like you said about Beckham, I think he could go for 1,008 his rookie season right out the gate.
Well, okay, that's
my guy.
Okay, interesting. Well, listen, I'll keep an eye on it. The last guy that was your guy was Dominic Brown. So. And then Javi Baez this year.
God.
In the Razzball Superliga, you had Javi Baez, and we won't tell people how much you paid for Javi.
For who?
For Javi Baez.
Oh my God! Yeah, I didn't understand. That was my first auction. We'll forget that. I'm battling though. I am battling Dominic Brown, who was bidding against me, driving up the new one. I'm gonna buy him. Somebody bidding up the. I can't. That's the source.
You're the guy I love in my league because I can just goad you into spending more than you need to. All right, I want to talk about one more player before we wrap this. Tight end Eric Ebron.
Okay.
Interesting guy. Interesting because I think the last couple of years with all the emergence of these, stretch tight ends, Gronkowski, monsters like Jimmy Graham, I think a lot of people, when a tight end goes in the first or second round, automatically just assume now he's going to become a pass catcher. And I think Ebron could be. I think he's an interesting guy. And again, it'll depend on situation. If he goes to 10 at Buffalo, that'd be a great fit. They've actually added a lot of weapons in Buffalo. Buffalo could be an interesting team this year, just as I move away from Toronto and I can't go to Bills games anymore. But Eric Ebron, what do you think he could do again, depending on situation, but what do you think he could do first year?
First year, depending on the situation. You just mentioned Buffalo. And that's one of the spots I have him possibly going, just because I could see them. I mean, I'm tired of the Scott Chandler, whoever they've been throwing out there at tight end is just gross. And they got to get Manuel, another weapon out there. He's a big guy. Me and another guy were talking about him today, and we're kind of comparing him to Jared Cook of the Rams. One of the only tight ends that's gone this high who's ended up worth the pick was Vernon Davis, who Ebron compares himself to, though I don't see that. Ebron looks a little more traditional size. He's bigger, but a definite major weapon in the middle of the field, and he's fast enough to get it done. It's just I've heard a bunch of attitude problems and stuff like that, or just self-entitlement type of things. So
hey, like you and me.
Yeah, similar to that. If we were professional football players, that's what he is, and I don't know if that's teamwork.
But dude, you're so good looking. You could play like a pro football player in a movie. Sunday Afternoon Lights. There you go.
Yeah, this will be my audition tape. But we'll get. I think he's gonna. I don't know if he's gonna be worth the draft pick, but he's an intriguing weapon, and for someone like Buffalo, when they got a couple of those smaller wideouts and Stevie Johnson and Robert Woods, he's an intriguing option down the middle of the field there. I can do that.
All right, Tehol. We'll be doing I'll be here Thursday night actually while they're doing the first round of the draft. But I'm pretty sure I'll find a device somewhere that I can actually follow up on it. But listen, buddy, I really appreciate you joining us today. We're going to have you on a little bit for some baseball, a little bit for some football. Of course, if you watch the whole show, thank you very much. But if you just want this as an audio point of view, or in audio format, pardon me, we'll have this. We'll cut out the Sky stuff from earlier. That'll be a fantasy baseball podcast. We'll cut out the LT stuff, and that'll be a fantasy football podcast. No, I'm saying you're on the show.
I wanted to watch Sky. What's up with the live stream? I wanted to see my boy. I kicked it with him at the Playboy Mansion. We had a great.
Don't
time.
Talk about the Playboy Mansion where everyone was invited except me.
I forced my way into that one. They didn't want me to come, but I forced my way in. But so maybe next year you can go instead of me.
Buddy, no, forget it. I'm showing up with the truck. People, when you show up with the rolling Razzball van, people don't say no to you.
We're in there. We're coming.
Tehol, thanks for joining us today on Razzball Radio. And, of course, tomorrow, or depending on when you watch this, maybe today, but Wednesday night we'll have Jess Root of Revenge of the Birds here in studio, sitting right next to me. And then we have another cast of characters because we're doing this every day, Monday to Friday. This is what we do now, Tehol. This is what we do.
I love it.
Get out of here. All right, thanks again for joining us on Razzball Radio. We'll talk to you soon.
Later, buddy.